A very good morning to all the virtual participants of the first day of our 5 days online course on the role of media in disaster management. The aim of this wonderful 5 days online course is to inculcate the positiveness among our students and scholars and imbibe the ways on how to protect themselves and handle the current situation which is arised out of pandemic caused by COVID-19. We hope that after completion of this 5 day online course, we will be more aware and more sensitized on the disaster situations, and students will be more equipped with the knowledge on how to do reporting in such situations while keeping themselves and their family members safe and healthy. So today, on the first day of this 5 days online course on role of media in disaster management, we have with us a very special guest, Ms. Archana Kapoor, a Delhi-based filmmaker and community media specialist. Ms. Archana Kapoor is the founder, director of SMART, Seeking Modern Applications for Real Transformation, an NGO which works with marginalized communities in India. Ms. Archana Kapoor is also the founder of Radio Mewat, a community radio operating in Noon since 2010. A publisher and author, Ms. Archana has developed and co-authored a toolkit on sustainable development goals, namely Communicating the Sustainable Development Goals, a toolkit for community radio. Ms. Archana has worked with over 200 community radio stations in country and abroad, is a strong voice in the community media sector. We couldn't have asked for a better start of our online course other than this huge selfless personality, Ms. Archana Kapoor. So, I, on behalf of the entire Department of Mass Communication, School of Media, Film and Entertainment, extend our warm welcome to you, ma'am, and thank you for honoring us with your esteemed presence. Now, without further delay, I'd like to request our speaker, Ms. Archana Kapoor, to kindly take over the mic and enlighten us, our students, with her words of wisdom. Ms. Kapoor, please.
Thank you so much, Mukta, Dr. Ritu Sood and Dr. Amit Chawla. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to revisit, this time virtually, Sharda University and its faculty and its students. My focus will be on community media, which is community radio, because that's where I'm most comfortable. I've been running a community radio station for the last 10 years in Mewat, Nu, and I've been a strong advocate of this platform. And I believe that particularly I agreed for this discussion is because, you know, I believe that in any kind of disaster, community is your first responder. Community has to respond. Everything else takes time to reach you. And even if you are stuck, even if you need help, it is your neighbor, it is your immediate people around you who will respond to your need, and the rest of the help will follow. Also, communication and other lines get broken. So at times it is just your community with whom you can interact, you can exchange, you can share your experience, and you can expect help. So having set the tone for that, I don't know how many people, I'm sure most of the people on this panel are familiar with community radio, but I would start with a very short brief on how I look at community radio. And of course, it is also how community radio has evolved over the years. So the community radio is, a platform that talks about local issues to local people in a local language. So that is, I think, the core of your community radio, which is local issues, local people, and local language. Having said that, I think it is the platform which is most accessible and which ensures the participation and inclusion of the most marginalized communities within the community that you are broadcasting in or are based in. We all know that community radio started with the mandate of providing voice to the voiceless. That is, giving a voice to people not that who could not speak, but those whose voices were not heard. So the whole idea was to provide a platform which gives space to voices which are not heard, particularly with a focus to women, children, most vulnerable and most marginalized and excluded, discriminated communities within your geography. So I think that is where the role of community radio becomes very, very crucial. I want to reiterate that two things or three things are very important. One is involvement and access of community. Second is participation of community. And third is the inclusion of the most marginalized people on this platform. We all know it's a low input and a high output yield medium. That is, it is cost effective. You just need about 10 to 15 lakhs to start a community radio, and you can listen to it on a feature phone also. So people who do not have access to internet, who do not have the money to buy smartphones, who do not have any other source of information, are illiterate, do not have access to newspapers, they make no sense to them because they're illiterate, do not have the money to buy television and pay for your cable TV and your other channels. For them, this is a very effective and very, I would say, most impactful medium that can inform them, educate them, engage with them, entertain them, and finally empower them. We are also aware that because I have worked on sustainable development goals, so I can tell you with confidence that community radios can play a very significant role in the development of sustainable societies. In today's time, if you look at it, and since most of the attendees are students, we know that data is information. And what is information? Information is knowledge. And where does knowledge lead to? It leads to power. Those who have knowledge feel more powerful as compared to those who are less informed. So the whole idea is that community radios have that power. They have knowledge, they have information, they have the data of their communities, not in terms of figures or Aadhaar numbers or bank account numbers, no. They know their community, they understand their community. They are the data banks of the community, knowing exactly where the most vulnerable live, where the most deprived people live, where there is water crisis, where there are schools, where there are no schools, you know, where there is waterlogging happening, which are the vulnerable areas, which are the vulnerable communities, where are the elderly people, because, you know, they do several kinds of programs. They talk to all segments of society, and in that kind of situation, they are the data banks of the community, knowing the sensitivities, the vulnerabilities, the power, the strengths, the achievements, the weaknesses. They understand their community because community radios are run by the community themselves. They are for the community, they are run by the community, and they belong to the community. And that is why the role of community radios in a disaster is extremely significant and important. Now, a lot of people would ask that in this crowded space of media, where we have thousands of channels, we have zillions of social media platforms, we have all kinds of newspapers and television channels also having a presence on social media, then what is it that community radios are bringing in? So community radios bring in stories from the ground which otherwise get missed by mainstream media. That we must always flag, because we work within small geographies. We understand, we know exactly. The newspapers only go when a disaster happens or when there is a crisis, they go to the remotest of areas. Whereas community radios are stationed in these remote areas, in these far-flung, hard-to-reach areas, and are catering to their needs, are creating demands, and are creating platforms for sharing and sharing experiences and learning from each other. So that is how community radios are different from what other media are doing. Of course, I'm not taking away from any of the media or its role, but I'm only highlighting the role of community radio here. Talking about disasters, India has traditionally been vulnerable to disasters because of our geographic terrain. Whether you look at cyclones, you look at floods, you look at earthquakes, you look at landslides, you look at fires, you look at desert storms, hailstorms, drought. We have this kind of terrain. So we have deserts, we have Himalayas, we have rivers, we are close to the sea, Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea. We know we've just come out of the cyclone Amphan, and we all know that in normal circumstances, the disasters would have been much more. So we are, as a country, evolving to handle these socio-economic, geoclimatic conditions. And we are getting more and more better at looking at saving lives and property. Why are we becoming so prone to disaster? Besides our geographical terrain and besides our topography and other things, we have a problem of huge population growth and unplanned development. We know that one rainfall happens and the city's roads get clogged. We are all familiar with the pictures of the ISBT road. We are familiar with, waterlogging in Vasant Kunj. I'm only talking about Delhi right now and NCR. We know that, there is a huge, it takes people 4 to 5 hours to reach the NCR. Why? Because it is unplanned development. Because people are very selfish. When they have built houses, they have, closed all the, outlets of water. They have built their pavements on the drainage system, and people have just done what they felt like, and there has been nobody who has actually talked to them or dinged this sense into them that life is not only about you, but it's also about your neighbor and your surroundings. So what has happened is that this unplanned development has contributed to the changing face and frequency of disasters. We have seen floods in Mumbai, in Jammu and Kashmir, in Chennai, Kerala. Last year, it was last year, I think we faced the worst possible floods in Chennai. Of course, as I said earlier, we've made a lot of gains through better technology, better early warning systems, accurate predictions, but still there's a lot of work to be done at the community level. India has reached that stage where we realize, and we are part of various disaster platforms. I've had the privilege of making several films. Even 5 of my films were screened during the Asian Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Mitigation a couple of years back. So I know that there is an enhanced effort towards international and regional cooperation, transfer of knowledge, sharing of information, sharing of best practices, and also strengthening the capacity and resilience of partner countries, especially in the Asia-Pacific region. If you are aware, then you know that Asia-Pacific region contributes to 80% of the disasters across the world, whether it is Philippines, it's Nepal, it's Bangladesh, it's Pakistan, it's Sri Lanka. All these countries contribute to 80% of the world's disasters, and the maximum number of people reside in the Asia-Pacific region. So obviously, a high number of population or people is vulnerable to these disasters. Also, we must remember that our goalposts are continuously shifting. If you recall, many years back, we used to be talking about only relief and rehabilitation. But now the focus has shifted to risk mitigation and resilience. So from rescue and relief, we've seen a very significant shift to risk mitigation and resilience. And of course, rehabilitation is an important part of it. So now, having set the context of disaster in our country, I would like to now talk about what community radios can do. What can community radios do? Community radios can serve as the eyes and ears of the community during the time of a disaster, because they, as I said, have information, have data, and have knowledge as compared to the rest of the community. When we look at community radio, it has the advantage and the responsibility of serving as a prime vehicle for information sharing and preparing communities to reduce the risk and also to reduce the risks to livelihoods, livestock, and lives. So it can only, you would say that, okay, we'll create awareness when a disaster comes. No, community radio is there looking after the interest of the community. So it has to not only work during a disaster, but it has a lot of responsibility to communicate pre-disasters, during disasters, and post-disasters. So how I look at the role of community radio? I think community radios can play an important role in making disaster everybody's business. Now, to make it everybody's business, what do we have to do? We have 4 things to do. We have to have the knowledge and information. We have to have the ability for communication. We have to have the appeal to persuade people, so persuasion. And then we should have the wherewithal for confirmation. Now, what do I mean by knowledge, communication, persuasion, and confirmation? First of all, when I talk about knowledge, I'm talking about the information and the data that you need to communicate. You need to tell people that we are in a vulnerable zone. We are prone to a cyclone or an earthquake or any other disaster that we are talking about, or a flood. So if you are building your houses on the silted land, then that's not. So, you have to have information on the do's and don'ts. You have to have a communication strategy. So when a disaster is happening right now, COVID is going on, everybody knows that what you need to do. You need to wash your hands, you need to wear a mask, you need to do, you don't need to shake hands, you need to stay away, maintain social distancing, etc. So now we know that the disaster is already on, the damage is already done. So what we are doing, we are only preventing the spread. But how could we have avoided? Of course, COVID is a special situation, it's not the right example. But how do we prevent an earthquake to happen? So we build better. How do we see? Most of the deaths that happen is not because of the earthquake. It's because things fall on people's head. Roofs fall, your almirahs fall, your, the heavy equipment in your houses fall, in hospitals. Why do you evacuate? Because you know that once the earthquake happens, then things will be shifting and will move from their original location. So you should not come in the way. So the whole idea, if supposing you were doing an earthquake mitigation program, then you would inform people that please do not have loose almirahs in your houses because you are in a vulnerable zone. If you're in Uttarakhand, you know that you are in a vulnerable zone 4 or zone 5. So you will have to build your houses. You will have to get your houses retrofitted. So that is the kind of knowledge you need to have, and that is the kind of communication strategy you will need to have. You know that when an earthquake strikes, you have to duck, hold, and stay. So wherever you are, wherever there is a stable surface, you have to get into it, you have to stay there, and you have to hold yourself in that position up to the time that the earthquake is taking place. And not only up to that time, but for some time later, because whatever has been dislocated will take time to fall. So that kind of information should become part of your consciousness. When you see a red light, automatically, if you are driving, your foot goes on the brakes and you change gear. This is not something that somebody tells you that, oh, do this because there's a red light. This has become part of your consciousness. And that is what has to become when we talk about disaster. And community radios can play a role in keeping on repeating this information. So communication strategies, persuasion. How do you persuade people to listen to you, to respond to you? So your strategy has to have an appeal. And lastly, how do you know that when you have communicated this message, people have responded, people have heard, people have listened to you, and people will have, they have taken this information as something important. So I would like to tell our students here that there are 3 things of communication. One is, of course, to acknowledge that there is a problem. That is why we are communicating this information to you. You are in a vulnerable zone and you need to acknowledge this fact and you need to be prepared for it. Second thing is that you need to absorb the information. So acknowledge and absorb. So whatever information we are giving you, you need to absorb this information because it is for our good. And lastly, act. So what do? Once you have the information, then you act on that information. You know that for road safety, you know that roads need to be safe. You know that people have to travel and you have to avoid traffic jams. So there is a light there. So you know that when it is green, you have to go. When it is yellow, you have to get ready. And when it is red, you have to stop. So that kind of information has to be continuously transmitted so that you absorb that information and then you act on that information, that when you see the red light, you stop automatically. So I think these three aspects of any communication strategy are very important and are also important in any kind of reporting. That did the people also know that they were in a vulnerable zone? Were they aware? Was any information given to them? And how have they responded to it? So presuming, what do we say? We say, "Arey, unko to pata hi nahi tha." There was lack of awareness. So that is why the role of radio, community radio, is to create that awareness. It is to reach to that last mile, last village, last person living in that village and build this connectivity. So what you need to do is you need to build the connectivity with your community. And to what purpose? To reduce the losses to life, property, livelihoods, livestock, and overall reduce your risk to disaster by preparing your communities to face disaster when they do happen. Therefore, as I've already said, our work is a continuous process. Once we realize that we are a vulnerable zone, our work starts. We have to build for a better tomorrow, not for immediate rescue and relief. Of course, that is also very important because no matter how much information you have, there is loss to life. You know, one random tree can fall on you and you don't know what hit you at times. There is a lot of damage, your cars get damaged, your homes get damaged, and that is something that is part of your recovery and rehabilitation program. And communities, radios can play a very important role in that by sitting with communities, understanding with the authorities, assessing, helping in assessing the loss, announcing that, okay, this is what the government is doing. So you need to talk about policy. You need to talk about the program also. So what I'm saying is that if we want to plan for a better, for a resilient India, we need to look at all the schemes of the government, whether it is insurance, whether it is crop insurance, when you look at drought and hailstorms, whether it is retrofitting when you talk about earthquakes, whether it is building safe and strong and staying strong. Even for community radios, we always talk about, when you set up your community radio in a cyclone-prone area, what you need to do is that you need to look not at the tower that Sharda University or a Mewat station may have installed, which is on your terrace or from the ground, but you need to have your antenna and your tower on a concrete structure, because your concrete structure will give you the resilience to take, the strong winds and not fall off. When we look at Hudhud, then there were about 6 radio stations in Odisha which had faced a crisis. But now when we look at AFM, then when they have built back better, then all the stations have been able to safeguard their towers and their antennas and the studios and have stayed safe. So what is important is that how do we learn lessons? And I think community radios can play a very important role in talking about best practices, in sharing information from the past and sharing lessons from the past. Why do we need to build back better? I'll only tell you one little story. So why we need to build back better tomorrow? So I'll just give you a story of China. I know China is not a favorite country these days, but still, my brother-in-law, he is in the shipping industry, and he traveled to China about 20 years back. And he was going on this highway, which was beautiful. It was a 6-8 lane highway with only a few cars. So he asked the driver that why are people not using it? And this is so big. He says people are using it. He says, then why is it so huge? He said, we are not building for today. We are building for tomorrow. So our planners, our city planners, our disaster experts have to plan for tomorrow when there is such a huge population crisis in this country. When, you know, if we do not plan our development, then we can only keep on giving information, but the response will not be what we really want it to be. So here I would like to, start concluding and then go on to COVID very briefly. So when we talk about disaster from the very beginning, what are we talking about? We are talking about creating a demand for change. And what is our communication strategy aiming at? Our communication strategy is only aiming at change in behavior, change in attitude, and acquisition of more knowledge. So that is what our entire effort of community radios is, that we help people in changing their behaviors and becoming more sensitive to the risk-inducing factors, so that we can reduce the risk. So we'll have to create a demand for disaster risk measures through advocacy with key stakeholders and through community participation. Secondly, we have to create a climate of opinion in favor of disaster awareness. We have to create a culture of disaster awareness by running continuous, sustainable disaster awareness campaigns. Number three, we can have the best exceptional plan, but if we do not reach if the message does not reach our target audience, it will fall apart. So what we need to do is we need to have campaigns which ensure the participation of individuals and communities together. We need to mobilize the entire community. If one person does not retrofit his house or has a weak structure and there is a crisis and that house falls or collapses, it is going to take several houses along with it. So we have to inculcate this behavior change of even respecting the needs of your neighbors. So we need to have individuals and communities to participate. We need to look at strategies which look at substantial reduction. So better planning, better road building, better housing, insurance, looking at all the things that we need to save lives, we should look at that. Also looking at alternative livelihoods simultaneously. So when we are sensitive to certain livelihoods which are based on either agriculture or mobility or something like that, when a disaster strikes, it takes weeks to rebuild. So in that kind of situation, how do we sustain the livelihoods of people who have been impacted? And I think that at that stage also community radios have an important role to play. So what we need to do is we need to safeguard the social, economic, and environmental assets of the individuals as well as the communities. We need to inform about the laws and policies. We need to continuously talk about the National Disaster Management Act. We need to continuously talk about the National Disaster Management Guidelines. We need to talk about the National Disaster Management Plan. We need to talk about the disaster management guidelines for vulnerable people, like for disabled people, for elderly people. We need to have a gender perspective. We need to look at women. We need to look at the most vulnerable, and amongst women also, those who are small farmers, or those who are widows, or those who are single parents. I think we need to start mapping our communities so that we know where these people actually reside, and in times of disaster, do we reach out to them or not? We need to have a sense of ownership. Only when it becomes everybody's business can any disaster mitigation effort succeed. So we need to have ownership of all stakeholders, and we need to build systems of accountability. If something has not been done, if a restaurant has caught fire and 20 people have died, who is responsible? Who gave permission? Who looked at whether this was safe or not? Did we do all the SOPs? Did we have the standard operating procedure? Did we follow that? when the army goes out, they do an SOP. They look at how they will save lives. And I think all of us need to look at that aspect when we look at disaster mitigation. So we need to look at messaging. Now, as a community radio, our key job is to give message. So I just want to highlight a few things about the message. First and foremost, the simpler the message, the better it is. The better reach it has, the better penetration it has, and the better acceptance it has. So keep your message very simple and easy to understand for all segments of society. If you are targeting your local population, keep the message in local language so that it resonates with the community and it stays with the community. Use very powerful language. You are using powerful language not to create panic or fear. Ensure that your message does not create panic or fear, but ensure that your message brings about a change in behavior, moves people to act and respond. It really shakes up people without causing fear and panic. Of course, when the disaster is just 5 kilometers away, 30 kilometers away, then there is a situation of panic. But ensure that panic does not lead to another disaster, a stampede, or an accident, or people trampling over each other. So that kind of powerful messaging is very important. Share something new. Share something which people don't know about. So, okay, everybody knows about this, that, okay, we are in a cyclone-prone area, but can you bring in new information? Can you look at experiences from abroad? Can you look at experiences from your neighbors? Can you look at how Kerala rebuilt itself? Can you share those experiences? Can you talk about the lives lost because people did not adhere? So what is important is share something new. A good message, a good story is better than millions of figures. You can keep talking about figures we do not remember. We know that there is a pandemic, but if you ask how many people all over the world have, been impacted, it's changing, it's evolving. So have your message which is very simple, which is powerful, which is new, which has a new perspective. Look at fake news and misinformation. The role of community radios is very important. Of course, I will take it up in COVID, but let me tell you that we have seen tragedies when fake information has been spread. People have moved around. Somebody has posted something, oh, you're getting food there, or you're getting water there, or you're getting something there. And people have moved in hordes and led to stampedes. And when they have reached there is nothing like that. Or this information, or that, this has got over. And then people start just running around helter-skelter to get whatever is left. This is all misinformation. In COVID, we have seen a lot of it, and I will take it in the next phase. But misinformation is the worst thing that can happen. And I'm sorry to say, but the social media has contributed immensely, because the speed at which we transmit information, at which we disseminate information has changed entirely. You don't wait for a newspaper the next day. You don't wait for breaking news. You are getting it every second on your phone. And this is what people are reading more and also absorbing more and responding more. So what is important is that we must keep in mind the fact that misinformation is the worst thing that can happen to a community. It is a callous thing. It can take away lives. So community radios have to have the ability to check on news, to go to government sites, to first check if it is true or wrong. Call up your district administration, because you are the only one who has equal access to them. You can talk to, in a health epidemic, you can talk to the CMO, you can talk to your police, superintendent of police, you can talk to your district collector. So please look at the credibility and correctness of the information. Talk about policy. Target your audience. You should know what your audience can do and what it can't. Where is your shelter home? Where can they go and take refuge? Where is your COVID hospital? Where are the doctors available? You should have all that information in your studio, so that it's not with one person, but it is with your entire team. Get a list of important numbers. Like we know that during COVID, Ministry of Health started giving numbers. We know that there is a helpline number which has started by the NCW, National Commission for Women. These are the numbers that you have to keep on transmitting, keep on disseminating, so that your community is totally aware. Like we know that we dial 100, similar to get the police, similarly we should know what to dial to get relief and to get a response. Win the trust of people. I think as a community radio, you already have the trust of the people because you are run by the community, you are for the community, and you belong to the community. But it's a continuous exercise. You falter once and you lose your audience. So you have to build the trust of the people continuously by giving them information which they can use for their own development, for their own transformation, for their own safety, for their protection, for risk mitigation, for reduction of loss to lives and property. So I personally feel that there are three things that we need to look at. One is community radios have to help in making disaster everybody's business by fixing responsibility, by creating awareness, and by also ensuring the participation of the community as well as other stakeholders, in which I mean the schools, the colleges, the district administration, and others. Number two, we have to have a campaign strategy. We have to learn from lessons, whether it is within India or abroad. We should have a data of best practices. Number three, we should communicate a lot on the policies. Our messages should be simple, should be powerful, should be relevant, should be correct. And that is how I think that we can have a good strategy which not only helps communities acknowledge that they are living in disaster zones, but also absorb information, contribute to that information by their own stories, and then act and respond on the basis of that information. So there, I would like to stop where one phase of my discussion is concerned. I'll be happy to talk about COVID if time permits. Thank you, Mukta.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have a lot of questions with us. Mr. Kaleem Ahmed is asking how much government work with community radios during crises like COVID, especially now when people are hungry and are not approachable.
So, we get our license from the government, but we are not dependent on the government at all, because we do not get any funding. We do not get, any kind of other response or favor from the government. We are totally a community-based organization. We would definitely like the government to look at community radios as a very powerful tool for communicating, because COVID is a local issue. It's a global problem, but it has local solutions and has to be handled locally. Every country is handling it differently when we look at the map, and every district and every state, even when we look at flights and trains, every state has its own rules and regulations where quarantine is concerned or access to people is concerned. And similarly, every district is different. So we work with the community and we keep community first. So 90% is community and only 10% maybe other things as far as community radio is concerned. What we are looking at the government right now is access to information. So we are accessing the sites of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the sites of MSME, MyGov, and all these other sites to create information. So as far as the government is concerned, it is right now only a tool which we are tapping into for correct information. Otherwise, the government has not even acknowledged. Of course, I think Niti Aayog has, but otherwise, we have not heard the words of acknowledgement from the government. And community radios, let me tell you, Mr. Tasleem, have gone out of the way. The reporters have got passes issued. They have worked day and night. They have gone to the communities to bring the stories. They've talked about where food is available, where drinking water is available, in places where water is an issue, how to keep your hands clean, what kind of sanitizers to use. There has been so much of misinformation, it. Go and stand in the sun, have ginger, have hot water, consume a lot of garlic, consume turmeric, even that, where the mosquitoes se spread ho raha hai. Or there are so many myths, garmi aayegi to chala jayega, but we are seeing a spike. So all this kind of misinformation, I think community radios across the country have taken the responsibility to keep the communities informed, safe, and not panic. I think that is very important. And as you know, Mewat, if I just tell you, from a red zone, it is now a green zone. And I would say that the community radio there has played a very significant role in informing and keeping the community updated on this information. I hope I've been able to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Our next question is from a participant from our Facebook page live, Mr. Achintya Abhishek. He's asking, how can anybody open a community radio station? That's the first part of his question. And the second is COVID considered as a disaster?
Definitely. I'll respond to the second question first. COVID is a health pandemic, and it has social, economic, and emotional impact also. It can be called a social and economic catastrophe also. So it is impacting lives across the globe. It is a disaster. We are following the NDMA guidelines. If you know everything, that if you spit, you'll be penalized. If you come out of the lockdown, you will be charged, you will be penalized, or everything that you need to do or you don't need to do are based on the National Disaster Management Act of 2005. So it is a health disaster which has cut across all segments of society, young and old, poor and rich, employed, unemployed. All segments of society have been impacted, so it's a disaster. Whereas setting up a community radio is concerned, it's a very long, I think we can do another webinar on that. But yes, you can visit the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting site, which is mib.nic.in, and you can go to the broadcast page and icon, and there you will get the guidelines of community radio. But quickly, I will give you only three, I'll only tell you who's eligible. One is if you are a not-for-profit, or if you are an educational institution like Sharda University, or if you are a Krishi Vigyan Kendra or an agriculture university. You should have been working with your community for 3 years. You should have a decent balance sheet which shows that you can, you can run the station. But most important is that your eligibility criteria, you should be part of one of these three things, and you should have engagement with your community. And the rest, I think you can always follow up on the website, which is detailed. We have a community radio policy guideline there. And if you want, I can share it with Mukta or Dr. Chawla, and they can forward it to you. I have a soft copy of the guidelines.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Our next question is from Mr. Aribam Vishwajit. He says, fake news has pumped in anxiety to many minds in the time of COVID-19. So how can community radio stations bar the fake news that has been doing the rounds in social media sites and spread genuine and positive news?
I think I've already addressed it earlier, but I'll just repeat it only here, that no news is news till it is verified. Okay, otherwise it's just a rumor. So verification of information, and that is where we talk about knowledge and data. That is where we talk about checking your resources, share your resources. Even if you are forwarding something, now government has said that you cannot forward because, again, it's a crime, because people forward all kinds of nonsense in the name of news. And this WhatsApp news has become a norm. I think community radios, because they are closely connected with the community, will not do such a thing, because they are aware of the panic and fear that it will spread in the community, and who will have to take responsibility? The community radio. Number two, they are very closely aligned with the district administration and other civil society organizations which have the right information or which are also part of the solution. So I think it is always very important to cross-check before you transmit and or disseminate the information, broadcast the information. So there is the responsibility, and I think there are a lot of agencies, and I would like to mention one or two here, like Alt News. Whenever you check, you will know that Alt News tells you people have been posting pictures, even they have been posting incorrect pictures about the crisis. And there also, I have read a lot on how this picture is not of India, this is of some other country, this picture is of 20 years before, things like that. So I think the onus of responsibility lies with the reporters, who should be bound by ethics to check and not spread panic, fear by misinformation and fake news.
Thank you so much, Archana ma'am. So I think this is time to wind up our session. So I would request our HOD, Dr. Amit Chawla, to take over and present vote of thanks. Dr. Chawla.
Well, Archana ji, I'm very, very thankful and grateful to you that you could make it for this online session for our students and this program, which is a 5-day online course on role of media in disaster management. And I'm very sure that the insights that you shared with the students, and specifically relating to community radio, shall be really, really well appreciated by all. And these will go very well with all the students as well as the faculty. Now it's my humble duty to thank you formally on behalf of the Department of Mass Communication, on behalf of the School of Media, Film and Entertainment, on behalf of Sharda University, that you could make it in such a short span of time and you conducted such a wonderful session for all the faculty and the students. Thank you so much, Archana ji, once again. Thank you, Dr. Mukta, for conducting this webinar so very well. And I think Ritu ma'am is also here now. Ritu ma'am, are you here?
Thank you, Archana ji. Thank you so much for coming at such a short time, and the knowledge that you've given is very important, especially during the time of COVID. And of course, as Sunur Sharda, you know that we are also committed to creating awareness, and daily we are broadcasting I think 2 hours of COVID programming, and our doctors from Sharda Hospital are coming on board. And recently what we've done is that we've also started Surili Superstar. That's a singing competition, so that we can spread a little happiness in times of pandemic. And I'm sure that your radio will also join us in creating it, making it more popular. And thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for having me here. Thank you for this opportunity, even though it was very short notice, but I really enjoyed it, and I could revisit my notes of 2008 when I did the public awareness strategy for NDMA on earthquake. So as you see, most of my examples were of earthquake, because I could revisit that, and it's kind of brought back memories. And I think I have also learned a lot while talking to you. And thank you so much. And I'm very happy with this association with Sharda University. It looks like I'm an integral part of it. And of course, we all have to work together and share our experiences and build on our best practices and lessons learned from each other. Thank you so much.
So Amit, can we have that group photograph?
Thank
Of course. So there is a tradition.
Coming and going.
So there is a tradition, Archana ji, that we have a group picture after every session. But now that we are doing it online, we usually try and do an online group photograph using the Zoom link. So I request all the participants for a brief moment, if you could, switch on your videos so that we can take, the screenshot as a memento, as a token. By the way, this session is also going live on Facebook, and I see a lot of people appreciating this session by Archana ji on Facebook as well.
Thank you.
Now that you have your cameras turned on, I am going to take the snapshot so I can say cheese. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Archana.
Thank you so much.